Hi, second grade. This is Miss Weiss. I hope you're all doing well. Today, we are doing the math lesson for day 4 of your packet for Thursday, April 30th, 2020. Let's get started. We are going to start with unlock the problem. You have this problem in your packet, so follow along with me. Let's start by reading the problem. On Saturdays, Jean may only watch cartoons for 1 hour. Her first cartoon lasts 14 minutes, and the second lasts 28 minutes. After a 5-minute break, Jean watches a 15-minute cartoon. How much time does Jean spend watching cartoons? Did she break her time limit? The first box on your paper says, "What do we know? What is important?" Pause the video and take a minute to look back in the problem to see what we already know and what you think is important. One thing that I think is important is that she's only allowed to watch cartoons for 1 hour. So I'm going to write down 1 hour because she's only allowed to watch for 1 hour. Then we also know that she watched cartoons. Her first cartoon was 14 minutes. Instead of writing the full word minutes, I'm going to write MIN. The second was 28 minutes. And the third cartoon she watched was 15 minutes. So those are all the cartoons she watched. I think that's important information. Now, one more thing I notice is that all the cartoons she watched are in minutes. But the rule that she's only allowed to watch cartoons is 1 hour. So the units here are different. I know that 1 hour equals or is the same as 60 minutes. So I'm going to add that to my important information because I want to use all the same units when thinking about this problem. Let's go to the next box. The next box says, "What are we trying to find? What is the question?" I see here the question is, how much time does Jean spend watching cartoons? That's the question. I just underlined it in purple. The unit we talked a little bit about on the last slide. We had hours and minutes, but the cartoons are listed in minutes. So I'm going to write that our unit we're going to be using is minutes. Oop, and I forgot, I should have added that there's another question. The second question is, did she break her time limit? So after we find out how much time Jean spends watching cartoons, we need to figure out if that broke her 1 hour limit. How will we use the information to solve the problem? I know this is where we can think about what operation we will be using. Will we be adding or subtracting? What type of equation will we write? Pause the video while you try to write your own equation to solve this problem. Now let's try doing it together. We know that Jean watches 3 cartoons. We want to know how many minutes she watched altogether. I know when I hear those words together that I want to be adding, putting things together. So I'm going to start by writing an addition equation. I'm going to write my addition equation vertically. I know her first cartoon was 14 minutes, so I'm going to write 14. The second cartoon was 28 minutes. I'm going to make sure I line up my tens and my ones for my vertical equation. 2 tens and 8 ones. Now we're not done yet. There's one more cartoon that she watched. 15 minutes. So I have 3 numbers I'm adding in this addition problem. That's going to help us answer the first question. How much time does Jean spend watching cartoons? When we add these 3 numbers together, we will know how many minutes she watched altogether. But the second question is, did she break her time limit? So after you find this answer, you're going to have to think about if it is more than 60 minutes. If it's more than 60 minutes, it means that she broke her time limit. Go ahead and solve the problem now and make sure you send a picture of your work to your teacher. Remember to bundle. I can already tell by looking at our ones that we are going to need to make a new group, a new 10. When you are done solving the problem, also make sure to write your answer in a complete sentence. Your sentence could start, Jean spends blank minutes watching TV. Now let's do some fluency. Pause the video while you practice making the next 10. When you finish these 4 problems, we will go over them together. Let's practice making the next 10. When we're making the next 10, we want to pay attention to how many ones we have and think about our partners to 10. 23 plus blank equals 30. I see 3 ones. I know that 3 and 7 are partners to 10. So adding 7 will make the next 10. 58 plus blank equals 60. I see 8 ones. I know that 8 needs 2 to make a new 10. 75 plus blank equals 80. 5 and 5 are partners to 10. So 75 plus 5 equals 80. 11 plus blank equals 20. 1 and 9 are partners to 10. Now go ahead and answer the next 4 questions, making the next 100. Here you're paying attention to the 10s. Partners to 100 are just like partners to 10. Pause the video while you solve these problems and then we'll go over them together. 280 plus blank equals 300. I see 8 10s. 8 and 2 are partners to 100, so I need 2 more 10s. 2 more 10s is the same as 20. 450 plus blank equals 500. I see 5 10s. 5 10s needs 5 more 10s, or 50 more, to make the next 100. 630 plus blank equals 700. 30 and 70 are partners to 10. Partners to 100. 810 plus blank equals 900. 10 and 90 are partners to 100. Great job. We have been talking about shapes this week. Look at this shape. What would you call this shape? If you answered rectangle, you are right. Now, I want us to think about the angles in a rectangle. I can count the angles. I count 1, 2, 3, 4 angles. Now we call these angles square angles. The reason we call them square angles is because you can make an L with these angles. So these are called square angles. This shape looks a little bit different from the last one. Look at this shape. Not all of the angles in this shape are square angles. Which angles do you think are square angles, and which angles do you think are not square angles? Let's look together at this angle. This angle doesn't make an L, so it's not a square angle. Putting an X next to it. Let's look at this angle. This angle does make an L. This one is a square angle. Same thing over here. This angle makes an L. It is a square angle. This angle doesn't make an L. It's not a square angle. Look at these 2 lines. What do you notice about them? One thing I notice is that these lines are straight. I also notice that these lines look like they could be sides of a shape. I also notice that these lines are the same distance apart. They never get farther from each other, and they never get closer to each other. This type of line is called parallel. Practice saying parallel with me. These lines are parallel because they are the same distance apart and will never touch each other. If I took a pencil and a ruler and kept drawing these lines like I'm trying to do here, they would never ever touch each other. They would never cross. They would keep going straight the same distance apart. This type of line is called parallel. Take a look at this shape. What type of shape is it? This shape is a quadrilateral. It has 4 sides, just like the other shapes we've looked at so far today. Now that we've learned about parallel sides, see if this quadrilateral has parallel sides. What do you think? I remember that parallel sides are lines that are the same distance apart and will never touch. Now I notice that on this side, this line looks like it is parallel with this side. They are both straight sides that look like they're never going to touch. If I kept drawing them down, they would never touch. They stay the same distance apart. But I notice that this side, I'll draw them in a different color, in blue. This side does not seem like it is parallel with this top. This top is slanted. And while I don't have a ruler and pencil, I think if I kept drawing this side, at one point it would cross into this bottom side. It would slant together because I notice that it's on a slant. So these sides are not parallel. So the purple sides are parallel, but these blue ones are not parallel. When a quadrilateral has 2 parallel sides, it is called a trapezoid. Practice saying that with me. Trapezoid. So one more time, this shape is a trapezoid. The word is down here. It is a trapezoid because it is a quadrilateral with 1 set of parallel sides. Let's look at another shape. What type of shape do you think this is? This is also a quadrilateral. It has 4 sides, so it is a quadrilateral. What do you notice about these sides? Are they parallel? I notice that this side on the left and this side on the right are parallel. They're the same distance apart and they would never touch. I also notice that this top side and the bottom are also parallel. They're straight lines and they're the same distance apart. So all of the sides have a parallel partner. The blue sides are parallel and the purple sides are parallel. When there are 4 parallel sides or 2 pairs of parallel sides, the shape is called a parallelogram. Practice saying that with me. Parallelogram. A parallelogram is a quadrilateral that has 2 sets of parallel sides. Look at these shapes. We've seen these shapes a lot of times. What are these shapes called? We know that the first shape is a square. The second shape is a rectangle. What is special about these shapes? What do you notice about their angles? What do you notice about their sides? I notice that a square and a rectangle both have square angles. All of their angles make an L. I also notice that both the square and the rectangle have sides that are parallel. When all 4 sides are when 2 sets of sides are parallel and all 4 angles are square, it makes a rectangle. A square is a special type of rectangle. What makes a square special? A square is a special type of rectangle because all of the sides of a square are the same length. Let's take a look at this shape. This shape kind of reminds me of a square. What do you notice about the angles, and what do you notice about the sides of this shape? I notice that the angles of this shape are not square. These angles do not make L's. I also notice that this shape has parallel sides. The top and the bottom are parallel, and the two sides are parallel. So this shape has parallel sides like a rectangle, but it does not have square angles. We call this shape a rhombus. Practice saying rhombus with me. Rhombus. When a shape has parallel sets of sides, but it does not have square angles, it is called a rhombus. A rhombus also has equal length sides, just like a square. So the only difference between a square and a rhombus is that the angles are not square. Now you are ready to do today's packet work. Make sure to send a picture of it to your teacher. In your packet work, you are going to get to practice more with quadrilaterals, thinking about the sides and about the angles they have.